1 second here. All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. Question came in actually a while ago, just never got a chance to hit the question, and we'll see how far this goes. The question, whatever, pretty general question, but nonetheless an important question, and that is. That is, how do we serve God? Let's say better, what's the best way? What's the best way to serve God? So you can tell me, there'll be a lot of different opinions. Some will say, the best way to serve God is to sit and learn all day long. Others will say that, you learn part-time, you work part-time. Someone will say, you should sing and dance a lot more, right? But that's not necessarily by association. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Person, what's the hardest part in general about serving God? What do we say in general is the most difficult aspect? So some would say, and I think this is true, that most difficult aspect, or one of the most difficult aspects, is the fact that, and we've spoken about this a lot, but we're going to hit it from a little bit of a different vantage point, and that is, how do I keep Torah mitzvahs without doing them by rote? Right? In other words, if I, got up yesterday, as a Jew, wash my hands 3 times. I said modani, right? Or I said modani, then I washed my hands. Went to the bathroom, said the blessing. After the bathroom, said the blessing over the Torah, went to pray, whatever, got dressed, prayed, this, that. Didn't I do that yesterday? Didn't I do it the day before? Aren't the prayers the same? Right? Well, they differ. Fast day, we got different prayers to say. I mean, some of them are the same, some of them different. Shabbos, same thing. Right? We say different prayers on Shabbos. Say different Shmoneh Esrei on Shabbos. Different silent meditation, whatever you want to call it. But essentially, aren't we doing the same thing? Essentially, we're doing the same thing. So what's the question? So the question is, how do you not get caught up in that? How do you not get caught up in the everyday? Either without getting burnt out, or I guess it's similar, or we'll say that you don't want to do it after a while. It seems monotonous. That's the word. I did it yesterday. I made blessings yesterday. I prayed yesterday. Some I did better, some I didn't. I sinned all kinds of things yesterday. Not me, but whatever, anybody. We've done things wrong. And we go through the process again, repentance. I'm not going to do it again. I have remorse. I have regrets. I'm going to make a plan how not to do it again. But don't we say the Mishnah will make it, make it a little more convoluted? Does the Mishnah Perkei Avos say, right, it says in the ethics of our fathers, what's the best way to serve God? You serve God not to get any reward. That's the highest level. But won't people tell you, isn't that the purpose? Don't we know that for every mitzvah we do, we're going to get rewards in the next world? Not necessarily in this world. Could get something in this world, not really the topic for now. But, it's all for the next world. So shouldn't we want to serve the King of Kings even if we don't get reward? Someone asked me, what are you going to do when you find out? After 120 years, there is no Olam Haba. There is no next world. So first of all, I don't think that's true. But even if it would be true, even if we know today, and we understand, let's say, God forbid, there'll be no reward in the next world. So why am I going to do it? Why am I going to keep Torah mitzvahs? Why would I do it? Because it makes the most sense. It gives the most meaning. Some people may say, Christians will say, no, Christianity gives more meaning. Muslims will say, Islam gives more meaning. So will the Hindus. So, okay. Talk is cheap. As we always say, you find the flaw in their book can't be true. So my answer was, and this person wasn't going there, but my answer was that there's no other system set up in the world that gives more meaning for what I do than Judaism, even for non-Jews. Because for them, it's a lot worse. Because a lot of things non-Jews may be liable for death penalty. There are plenty of things that you can transgress, not death penalty. But by non-Jews, why is death penalty? Because these are universal. Whatever's going to be death penalty is something that they would have figured out. Anybody would have figured out. So they'd be liable for death penalty for those things. So I'd say that even if we don't know, and even if God forbids, there would be no reward for what we do. We do it anyway. We're not saying it's not true. We're not saying the Torah is not true. That's not the argument. That was this person's argument. What are you going to do to find out it's all not true? Well, obviously, we don't think that. But my point is, even if there be no reward, the highest level is you're going to serve God anyway. Because that's our obligation. Right? I'll make it a little more graphic. Says the levels of avodas. Says duties of the hearts. I get reward. We don't deserve reward. Not for anything we do. Right? Why? Mishnah Perkei Avos says, right? It says in ethics of our fathers, what? That when a person learned a lot of Torah, don't think you're so great, because that's what you're created to do. That's all you're created to do, is keep what God says, to learn Torah. So if you amassed a tremendous amount of Torah knowledge, why are you bragging? Because that's what you're supposed to do. Okay, that applies more to men than to women. But women have to know their own laws, and laws of Shabbos and Kashrus and other things. Many things apply to them as well. We won't discriminate. So over here, I can argue, if that's what you're created to do, why do you think it's so great? Why are you going to think it's so great? So ask the Chovos of Avos, why should you get reward? Why in the world should you get a reward? Imagine, right? You helped Granny cross the street, right? You did a mitzvah, you gave charity. And now you think, okay, I did a good deed. I deserve a hoodsie, right? What's a hoodsie? Anyone, grew up in Massachusetts knows, with a Dixie cup, right? Ice cream, half chocolate, half vanilla, with a wooden spoon, right? And why is it called the hoodsie? It's called the hoodsie because that was the company. The company's name was Hood, right? They made ice cream, probably made other things also, right? So God says, hey, you did a great mitzvah. I'm going to give you a hoodsie. I'm going to give you some ice cream over here. Beautiful. Why does God do that? Why does he have to do that? That's what you're created to do. Because if you're born a Jew, that's your obligation. And if you're not born a Jew and you don't want to convert, you got to keep the Noahide laws. So that's what you're created to do. So if that's the case, why God give you a hoodie? Why is he going to give you a taffy over here? Right, a Tootsie Roll. Why is he going to give you that? Seven avodas, unbelievable thing. You know why God's going to give it to you? You know, it's not a question you deserve it. Because that's what we created to do. Not about what you deserve or not. You did it because that's what you're supposed to do. Comes on God himself and says, you know why? Answers the avodas. You know why? Because God does it as a chesed. God does it as an act of loving kindness. Does he do it because he's obligated? Certainly not. Not obligated at all. He doesn't owe us anything. He gives us life. You want the benefit of doing something good. You want that benefit. You want a reward. He doesn't owe you anything. He grants you life. Gives you air. Gives you water. Gives you food. Takes care of your needs. You want a hoodie? You want a Tootsie Roll? Come on. A little bit chutzpah over here. So why does God grant reward? Because it's a chesed. It's an act of loving kindness. He doesn't have to do anything. Doesn't owe us anything. He gives everything to us. Keeps, talking to someone yesterday, very hot here, especially up north, very hot. So they'll say, if the earth was a little bit closer to the sun, it wouldn't be so, it'd be so hot, we wouldn't be here. We'd be disintegrated. I think it's hot now. You fry, totally fry. Couldn't live in such a world. Wouldn't be here. And if it was a little bit further away from the earth, it'd be a frozen tundra. Like Pluto, even though Pluto got demoted as a planet. So the highest level is, I'm going to serve God because I'm going to serve him. And it's the right thing to do. Get reward. You don't get reward, who cares? We're here to serve him. But we need incentive. We also need incentive. But I would say like this, if a person's only going to keep Torah mitzvahs for one reason, because they want a portion of the world to come, otherwise, God forbid, they'll fry in hell forever. And they're going to suffer. Isn't that the lowest level here? Isn't that the lowest level of fear of God? That's the lowest level. Now, I would say that someone who's going to keep Torah mitzvahs in such a way, not going to be at a very high level. Because eventually they could say, you know what? I'm going to fry in hell anyway. I did this, I did that. I didn't guard my eyes, I didn't guard my thoughts. God's going to punish me anyway. So I might just do what the prophet says, eat, drink, and be merry, lest tomorrow I die. And people will flake out. Because they're going to say, why bother? There are too many laws to keep anyway. It's impossible. We're going to sin at some point. Okay, so we'll get punished more later. But I might as well enjoy this world. Now, anyone who's left the fold, as a Jew, or even as a Jew wannabe, and they think the grass is greener, they find out the hard way. They find out they don't fit in. They try and fit in, but they don't want to fit into their old world. Their new world doesn't give them any meaning, even though they think it might or whatever. They think the grass is greener, they get burnt. Can always come back. There's always repentance. Right? There's definitely always repentance. Well, what's the problem? Person feels it can't come back. Well, that's not even the point here. The point is, maybe we do things that are monotonous. That seem to be monotonous. Pray today, pray tomorrow, pray the next day, hopefully with a little more meaning, a little more oomph in my step. We're not relying on what we did yesterday. We want to keep growing and growing. We'll have trials, true. Maybe we'll fall, maybe we won't. Question is how far. But either we're going up or we're going down. We're not staying neutral like Switzerland. We're not staying in the middle. That's akin to spiritual death. But what's the problem? What's the thrust of the question? The thrust of the question is, but yeah, look, I did it yesterday. Look, I do it, person get burnt out. See, we who have grabbed Judaism, reclaimed, at least for a Jew, reclaimed the heritage. For a non-Jew, it's taking on the heritage. So we can't forget. We can't be complacent. But you know what? It can even happen to us. We can even become complacent. Why can we become complacent? Because you've been doing it for so long. I've been keeping Torah mitzvahs for so long. So it's not fresh. It's not like I just got it today. Even though we have to look at our Torah observance like today, yesterday was nothing. Today is like a new day. Today is like I'm accepting Torah new. But you're going to say, but I've been doing this for so long. Probably been doing it for years, for months, whatever it is. And what happens? They lull themselves to sleep. They rely on what they did yesterday. They rely on what they did the day before. Shabbos is okay. Shabbos is great. But you know what? Some Shabbos maybe you just don't feel like you're in the mood. Or maybe some holidays. Person doesn't feel it. Let's say. So how do you feel it? How do you get in the mood? Not easy. You got to prepare. Day in and day out. Got to be excited to learn. We might even have to be excited to even hear Mussar, to hear ethics, things we don't want to hear. I just heard of a story. Whatever, it's tragic. Anytime someone passes away. But someone passed away younger, let's say relatively young. Not so old. The person's cut down. It's worse. Let's say a person died in an accident, something like that. Say someone has a disease, God forbid. It just overtakes them. It kills them. It eventually kills them. But they died at a younger age. Say person in their early 60s, relatively young today. I have a great aunt, I think next week, I mean 97. So you got some people get long life, maybe have minor things wrong with them. You have other people who go through sickness, go through illness, and they die young, relatively young. But Rabbi says, why do people die young and old? That way a person will do tshuva. Because if everyone died at the same age, no one's going to repent. Who's going to repent? Right, if everyone dies at the same age. So there are things out there that should shake us up. But some people say, well, don't we know? Doesn't everyone know we're going to die? Everybody knows. Not saying anything new. We have to know how to live. We have to know how to die. 100%. But things happen around us. Got to take stock. Got to take stock. What the mistake people make is, well, let's say a person got sick. They're already, let's say, in their late 80s, mid 80s. They'll say, okay, person had a good life. Okay, now they're going through this to probably die from it, or, the linger, whatever the case is. But see, it hits a person stronger when they're younger. Now, someone was in their 30s, yeah, that would wake someone up. That would maybe make someone think. Or God forbid, even younger. But if a person lived mid-70s, 80s, okay, that's also youngish in a certain way. My father, bless his memory, said, he thought 80 was old, until he got to that age. I mean, he lived past 80, but, when he was younger than 80, he thought, 80's old. 80's not so old today. Can be, depending on the person, what happens to their body. Right? But, if a person's older, they have no Torah mitzvahs in their life, they give a kvetch. Because they know it's going to happen to them eventually. They're not any spring chicken. Question is what they're living for. And if a lot of people ain't living for nothing, in my language, they got nothing to live for. So they see everyone around them dying. What does that tell you? They're also going to die. But say, all my friends are gone, I have to visit them in the cemetery. Well, that's kind of depressing. Okay. They're telling it the way it is. They give a kvetch, but say, I'm still here. Still happy for every day. Okay, but how are you living the day? How are you getting through your day? Playing cards? Mahjong? Doing needlepoint? So it boggles the mind. And I'll ask the question. People like this, what in the world does God keep them around for? Not keeping Torah, not keeping mitzvahs. People I'm thinking of. Why does he keep them around? So they can play more cards. They can eat more clams. They can desecrate Shabbos. So could be God keeps them around. Why? Because that's their own hobby right now. God has to repay anyone who did a mitzvah in this world. So if he's going to cut them off in the next world, he'll give them the merit, the reward for the mitzvah in this world, whatever they've done. So it could be they'll have longer life, but that doesn't mean it's going to be better. Because in the spiritual world, they get nothing. Now you can say, how do you know how it works for each person? We don't. Right? But there's a general rule. And the general rule is, someone doesn't keep Torah mitzvahs. And you see they live to a long ripe age. That's not necessarily to their benefit. No matter how much money they have, whatever they do. It's not to their benefit. Because God can keep them around longer, let him do the same thing over and over and over again. God's going to zap them. They're not going to have a portion in the world to come. Coffman's language, they're going to go poof like a dog. Nothing happens. Even if the dog's reincarnated. Person, a soul went into that dog. What happens? Dog dies. Dog's not going to have a portion of the world to come. That soul now will get elevated, get fixed up for whatever it did. Hopefully get fixed up. But God will take care of business. And if you leave someone around for a long time, it's not necessarily to their benefit. Now, again, God has to pay back and reward people for good things they've done. If he's going to wipe them out the next world, he's going to give reward. Even if he's not going to give them the reward there. He'll knock them out, but he'll give them the reward here. Now, it could be also, person can get some reward in this world, even for a mitzvah they've done. How? They did it with great joy. They get some aspect of the quote-unquote the reward in this world. Doesn't mean they lose it in the next world. But see, we have to know what we're looking at in this world. We have to know what's around us. Right? So I heard two cases today. Earlier, someone early 60s died. And then someone else, I don't know how old they are. Probably, I don't know, same age, maybe younger. Maybe younger, don't know. And they have cancer in the pancreas. So normally a person gets it there, it's pretty much game over. I mean, God can do anything, right? But if you get it in certain places, unless you get it, unless it's been diagnosed at the very beginning and you're able to deal with it, otherwise, you get it there, you get the liver, you get the stomach. I mean, you get other places also. Can come back, not come back. There's certain places it's safer. I would say a person gets it in the throat, not gonna die from it per se, unless it spreads. But normally, I think Michael Douglas got stage 4 in his throat. They can handle it. Right, a person's not necessarily gonna die from that. Right, most likely won't die from that. So I hear 2 cases today. So you got to think. Why was I told that day? Just in passing? Someone mentioned it in passing. Right? Both things in basically the same sense. This one died, and this one, this person's mother has, pancreatic cancer. So, dying, obviously, no one wants to die in this world. True. We're all going to die at some point, right? As we mentioned. But here, someone dies younger, early 60s. And someone, again, I don't know how old they are. I don't think they're that old. Right? They got pancreatic cancer. It's, you hope for the best, but, statistics aren't very good. Survival rate for so long. Whereas there, the liver, stomach, depending on what stage. So, nothing's said for no reason. Question is how we react to it. So someone who's older tells me this. What's their reaction? They give a sigh. They give a little bit of a kvetch, a sigh, and you move on. Move on to the next topic. Does it make an imprint? Do they think about it? Think about meaning in life? No. I'm going to say no. Now, I could be wrong. Could be that person's now, thinking about real meaning of life and this and that. I tend to doubt it just by knowing in person who they are. But someone could. That could be a wake-up call. Could be a tremendous wake-up call. They want to be woken up. But isn't it something we already know? You didn't need me to tell you this live and yell and scream about it. Doesn't everyone know this? Of course everyone knows it. It's all of faith. Do we think about it? Do we think about life and what our actions mean? And what we do, we just act or react. It's what we do. That's what God wants. He wants more than that. Right? So the question we started with is the best way to serve God. Right? Without really getting burnt out. With being, singing and dancing a little bit more every day. Doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter. Why? Because all this stuff is background. See, we get caught up in the background. We get caught up. This happened, that happened, something else happened. This bill to pay, something else, and whatever. All these things. And we don't think about what we're supposed to really be thinking about. We go through life. We do what we need to do. Sometimes we pray better, sometimes not. Sometimes we make blessings better, sometimes we don't. If you're a Jew or a JIT. Sometimes we're in the mood more, sometimes not. All right. So what's the best way to serve God? Always knowing He's around. Always knowing what I do matters. What I think matters. Even though we say words in our heart don't really mean anything. And, in many cases. Am I getting wake-up calls and not reacting and just giving a kvetch? So the question is, what are we living for? You're going to say, what are you talking about? Living for God. Laying down myself for God here. Learning as much as I can. Being the best is, trying to do everything I can. Okay? But we're also going to try and be better. We're also going to try and work harder. We have to strive. It'd be one thing, it'd be like this. It'd be one thing, someone, let's say the vice president. But he's going to be determined, why am I just vice president? I could be president. It's not about resting on our laurels here. Sometimes it does seem monotonous. So you say, well, I need a break. I need to chill my mind. I need, whatever. Kick back and sip a pina colada, maybe. Maybe let my mind go to mush a little bit. Life's not that easy. Life is one big challenge. That's what it is. And we have to take stock of everything around us. I'm not saying we're being philosophical every second of every day. That would probably kill most of us. You need a little bit of downtime, let's say. But you know what? We're not here that long. What does King David say? 70 years. And if we have strength, 80 years. Anything over that's a blessing. So what am I using the time for? If a person mentions, this is tragic, and that's tragic, but they don't take stock of life in general. And they give a big fetch. I'm not saying you should be depressed. Can't live in, being depressed. Saying, this person died young. The other person, going to die soon. Right? Body's going to give out. Tragic, whatever. What did I learn from it? Not just to give a fetch. Because you have to remember, everything that happens in the world is for the sake of us. For the sake of the Jewish people. Question is, do we get the message? Are we getting the message? So I'm hoping I got the message. Why did someone tell me today? An hour and change before I was supposed to do this Q&A, and I knew what the topic was. I don't think I'm going to get to the other topic, but I knew what the topic was. Nothing happens by accident. And I didn't really think about it too much when the person said it. Now I'm speaking to myself. What do we gain from such a thing? Why do I have to be told? So they told the news as in passing, part of the conversation. But see, you tell something like that, it should make an imprint. It's not about just giving a kvetch and say, wow, I'm lucky to be here every day. Okay. Even if they acknowledge that, where's it coming from? What are they going to do with that day? Play mahjong a couple times a week. Play cards. Pass the time. Rabbi Chaim said, people think, time is money. Because that's what he associates time with, money. Rabbi Chaim says, I beg to differ. He says, time is life. Question is what we do with the time. So we spoke many times, not really the topic here, about wasting time. We understand that. Right? So every day is a new day to serve God. Every day. Whatever happened yesterday, happened yesterday. Today is a new day. Can be even more excited than I was yesterday. But people look at it as drudgery. in some way. They say, okay, I get up, I pray, that's what I do. That's what I've done for the last 20 years, 25 years, or people longer. That's what we do, okay? Very good. But they're just going through the motions. Going through the motions, you get credit, okay? But why? Why am I doing this? Because I'm going to fry in hell forever? Right? That's the reason? Or there's a higher purpose, even if I get no reward. So you're going to say, but it's hard. And I got to review what I learned. I got to go over things. And I got to continue to learn. It's a never-ending cycle. 100%, it's a never-ending cycle. Was there anything better than that? Anything more meaningful? Well, what people are doing now? Going on vacation, going here, going there. Not saying a person can't go on vacation. People say it's hot and this and whatever. But what am I doing on this earth for? Says the Ramchal in Path of the Just, I'm here to strive. I'm here to struggle. That's what I'm here for. But one thing for sure, we can never, ever, ever, ever take anything for granted. Because you don't know what's going to be. Nobody knows. King Solomon says in Proverbs, we don't know what today's going to be. We certainly don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So how can you rest on your laurels? You can't. We're going to say, Rabbi, come on. It's monotonous. I'm doing the same thing, making the same blessings, same prayers. So we got to sing and dance a little bit more. Maybe a little bit less than 3 weeks. Right? Not listening to music. But, at the end of the day, it's perspective. It's perspective. And 99% of the world has no perspective at all. Just like the prophet says, eat, drink, and be merry, lest tomorrow I die. That's their perspective. From this thing to that thing to the other thing. So what does that mean? There's no meaning. I go to the next gadget, the next this, whatever. There's no meaning. They'll say, yeah, I have meaning in this, meaning in that, but it's not deep meaning. What's the meaning we have? Every day we should wake up, we should kiss the ground and say, thank God, I can serve the one true God. And I have the ability to be the best Jew or JIT or Noahide I can be. Yeah, it's an awesome responsibility. 100%. We have ups, we have downs. Hopefully more ups and downs. It's a constant struggle. True. But it's an unbelievable thing. We would exchange it for anything. Look where we're holding today. Think about what a person was a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. It's a different world. We know a lot more. We've gained a lot more. We never stay the same because of different things go on in our lives. The question is how we deal with it. Right? So when you look in those terms and you see things around you that are totally upside down, how is it possible to take things for granted? Because we only take things for granted. We only realize, let's say better, we only realize what we have when we don't have it anymore. That's what we do. But why can't we appreciate it when we have it? Because we take it for granted. What? You need to hear about a tragedy to be thankful you're alive? I'm not saying the person was sick and in remission, this, saying you're alive. No sickness. Relatively healthy. It can all change tomorrow. Nobody knows. But we have to wait to hear something to be thankful. When a person prays, even if you just look at the translation, think about what these words mean. Forget about Kabbalah. Just think what they mean. Of all the goodness we have. And how thankful we should be. But someone's going to say, as we mentioned many times, but I'm getting beaten down in life. How can I be thankful? Well, let me ask you the $1.5 million question. as we always up the ante. If God wanted to, could he make your life worse? You're going to say, come on, how much worse could it be? Don't ask. As we say, Al tiftach pe l'satan. Do not open your mouth to Mr. S. Don't give him any leeway here. Like you feel, like Plastic Man being torn in, 10 different directions all at the same time. Sometimes we go through things, not just one thing, it's like 20 things at once. So you're saying, like, God, what do you think I am? How much do you think a person can take? Right? The question is how we deal with it, how we look at it. So, even if a person superficially, and prayer is the big thing here because prayer always needs to be strengthened. But when you look at the words of prayer, sometimes there are things that chart out at a person. You read those Psalms from Psalm 145 to 150, right? We say every day. Yeah, you talk about creation, and snow and hail and different things. All these things have purposes. We may not like to be out in the snow and the cold and this, or be out in the heat, when it's so hot. True. But there's a benefit to everything. Benefit to rain. Benefit to snow. But are we thinking in these terms? We're just thinking it's too hot. It's too cold. Or a person, let's say, lives in a climate where, in the summer, what does it do? It rains. Rains and it's humid. Right? Some places it's just humid. And just very hot. With very little rain. Get the gist? We complain here. We always complain when it's not. Oh, I wish it was this. Oh, I wish it was that. I wish a lot of things. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what we wish. Matters what we do. Matters what our mindset is. So I'm hoping me, myself, and I, all three of us, I also got the message. Because I also could have given a fetch and say, oh, it's terrible. Someone dies relatively young. Someone else, got a dread disease, they're going to die shortly. I mean, unless it's an absolute miracle. Right? It's tragic. Problem is, the person will say, if I think about these things too much, I'll get depressed. That's also true. It's also true. But we can't just blow it off and and just give a fetch and that's it. Question is, how does it affect us? See, if a person says, well, that's terrible. But I got these games this week, I'm doing this, doing the other thing, it means it doesn't sink in. I mean, it may never sink in. But even if someone who believes, you're gonna say, I can't live with that mentality, all the time, be depressed. You don't have to be depressed. You gotta be thankful to be alive. Right? You have to know how to live being alive. You know what? Even when life is hard. Even when life is hard. Because God never forsakes anyone. We may get tossed around because of what our soul has to go through for things that we do, but God's always there. I was telling someone the other day. Different things happen. Let's say, 6, 7, 8 months, a person now getting hounded for a bill they owe. But that's like, that's from a while ago. Oops. Right? That's from a while ago. So why all of a sudden now? God doesn't forget. God never forgets. I remember sold an apartment here in Israel, many years ago. And like 2-3 years later, there's a bill that came. Right, some bill that came that I was liable for wasn't a huge amount of money. It was right before Rosh Hashanah. A lot of things that can happen right before Rosh Hashanah. Why? Because it's the end of the year. So God has to orchestrate things in different ways. Right? In order that, you're supposed to get what you're supposed to get. You're supposed to lose what you're supposed to lose. But you say like a few days before Rosh Hashanah, come on. This is something 5 years ago. Why is it coming up now? Why in the world is it coming up now? Don't know. but it's that God doesn't forget. If God doesn't forget, how can we forget? How can we be lazy? How can we do all these other things? Because the problem is we don't take stock. That's the problem. We give a kvetch. Giving a kvetch not enough. Right? A kvetch meaning a sigh over here. Give a sigh. Oh, that's terrible. True. But how did it affect you? You say, wow, I'm so glad I'm alive. So glad I can, make blessings, keep Torah, do mitzvahs. Tremendous thing to be thankful for. But we look at the glass, it's half empty. Yeah, but look at this, and look at that, and look at the other. You're right. It's all true. It's all true. You don't think God's got a master plan? He's got a master plan. Why are we going through what we're going through? Don't know. Different reasons, who knows what. It doesn't even matter. If it's something it's happening over and over and over again, then I have to get the message. I'm not getting the message. But a person can be up and down. Why? Because God wants you to have more faith in him. He wants you to work hard on that, on your emunah. That's not something easy. So what does God do? Push you in certain situations. Maybe you did it yourself, whatever. But we can't be the same every day. And when a person has a tragedy or something and they stay the same, that's not the point. That's why my Rebbe says people die young and old. Like we said at the beginning. Why? So a person will repent. Because everyone died the same age. No one would ever repent. But these things that happen around us are wake-up calls. They don't happen for no reason. People don't say things for no reason. They may think it's no reason, whatever. They make a comment and, they make a passing comment. So this comment was made to me as a passing comment. Why is it coming out now? I don't know. They've just put it in my head and said, okay, let's hammer everyone now, including yourself. Because things don't happen for no reason. Got to be thankful for what we have. A lot to be thankful for. Right? Anyone listening, whoever's going to listen to this, and they see where they're holding a month ago, 2 months ago, 5 months ago, a year ago, they should be thankful where they are. Doesn't matter. They went up and down, this, that. We have setbacks, true. But knowledge is power. Knowing what to do, where I've been and where I came from, building blocks, we should be thankful. Absolutely thankful. But we're petty. Think about what this person said against us. We think about what people did against us. Okay. There are things we have to deal with. And there are things that may affect us our whole lives. The question is how we deal with it. I just heard a whole thing, the singer Lipa Schmelzer had a whole story. He grew up Hasidish, ended up going to university, actually went to Columbia University, whatever, he's a singer. A pretty famous Jewish singer. Whatever, he had his ups and downs. But different things he said, as I was listening yesterday, it was pretty remarkable. And he said there are things that are going to be with me my whole life. Things that are not, let's say, so positive. And he said there are certain things going to be a struggle for him. Sometimes it'll be better, sometimes not. Right? But that's what life is. Life is not monotonous. It's not about saying the same things. We're in different situations all the time. Right? The question is, okay, how am I going to grow? How am I going to use this as spiritual growth? Or am I just going to give a kvetch and say, well, life goes on? Yeah, see, there are a number of questions here. Someone asks, I listen to music in the 3 weeks. Doesn't apply to them. The temple got destroyed. Why? It had nothing to do with non-Jews here. I mean, they're the ones who destroyed it. Right? But the question is, why did it get destroyed? Because of us. Spoke badly against others. Right? Lashon hara, sinas chinam, unlawful hatred. So listen to music doesn't apply to a non-Jew. During the 3 weeks. Someone asks, making money from gambling. Oh, is that okay for Noahites? Gambling is a problem. It's a problem in general. The problem in general for a Jew, because he's not doing what we call yeshiva shel oila. Well, there are two reasons. One is, if he gambles, he's not, You're not working. You should be working. You can say, okay, he's off time. Right? It's time when he's not working. Gambling for a Jew 100% should be forbidden. Right? There's a question, what about let's say an organization is raising money. They're raising money and they do whatever, not gambling. What do they call it? They do like a Chinese auction where it's a form of gambling. Can win certain prizes, different things. Right? Even though a person may think they'll never win anyway. Right? Big prize, $100,000, $20,000, a new car, a house, this, that, whatever it is. So that's, you give money to charity, and most people don't expect to win. Right? They say, but gambling also a person doesn't expect to win. Could be. Right? Could be, but that applies to Jews, not, I would say in general that gambling for a non-Jew at best would be a moral imperative. Wouldn't be any more than that. Right? I don't think it's a good thing to do. I definitely don't think it's a good thing to do. But are they obligated? Are they obligated not to gamble? One of the no-hide laws? No. Definitely not. But I would say that, if someone does gamble, just in general, you're going to lose more than you make. Right? And that's exactly what, casinos and, and other venues, they are banking on the fact that you are going to lose. Right? And even if a person wins, eventually they're going to lose. Right? It's just a matter of when. Definitely a matter of when. So gambling in general, I would say it's certainly not good. Right? It's certainly addictive. Because the person loses, and they think I'll make it up. I'll make it up this way. I'll make it up that way. And then it spirals out of control. Right? It's like any addiction. Definitely can spiral out of control. So by a non-Jew, what I say, it's forbidden only as a moral imperative. Definitely is a moral imperative. I wouldn't say, a person made money through gambling. Doesn't matter even if he lost money, right? But making money through gambling, is whatever. It shouldn't be forbidden. It should be, I would say it's a moral imperative. There is a question. I remember learning about this years ago. So I asked the question, let's say someone has, someone retired. They got enough money, live out their days, got plenty of money. So let's say they like to gamble. They like to gamble. They go to, they go to LV, they go to Las Vegas, a few times a year. Let's say, they go to Atlantic City, maybe a few times a year. The person has money. What are we worried about? Someone who's a gambler. We're worried they're not going to do anything else. They're not working. They're not doing anything for the world. Let's say better. They're not doing anything for the world. What about somebody that has done something for the world? They worked. They made their money, sold their business. Let's say. So they sold their business. Does that apply to them? Does this status apply to them? That's the whole question. Because you'll say, well, there's a question, they think they're going to win, and they're putting money down. So there's the whole question with that. And there's a question that they doing anything for the world over here. But what if they already did? They made their money. They got money for as long as they want to win. They got plenty of money. So that's a question. For a Jew, that would be a question because they're not doing anything for the world here. And they're not making money. So if they're working, they do this, a little bit here, a little bit there. Still forbidden for a Jew. Still forbidden for a Jew. But the question is, what are the reasons? Because they're not doing anything for the world. They're not working. He's spending most of his time gambling. So that's a problem. But what if he's not working? And 3 or 4 times a year he goes on what we call a junket, right? In other words, the casinos pay for you to go. And you have to gamble a certain amount of money. And they give you free tickets, give you free hotel, give you free everything. Because they know, you're a higher roller or a high roller, let's say. So you're going to gamble a lot, and they're banking on the fact they give you all this free stuff. But what are they banking on? You're going to lose. And you're going to lose big. So even the money they put out, you're still going to lose. They're still going to make money, no matter how much money they put out. But what if you're not working? What if you're not working? You're not gambling all the time. 3-4 times a year. Or what if you call it a bookie? Right? You place bets. Baseball, football, whatever, any sport. It's also a gamble. You got the over-under, most points, this, that, all kinds of things a person can bet on. Right? So for a Jew, that would be forbidden. 100% would be forbidden. What about a non-Jew? So again, it wouldn't apply. This wouldn't apply for non-Jews, but I would say that even if it wouldn't apply, what's the issue? It's a moral issue. Right? It's a what Coffman would call a moral imperative. That'd be a moral imperative not to do. Someone asked, should Noahites, proselytes, secular Jews become observant? First of all, non-Jews shouldn't say anything to Jews about mitzvahs they should keep. That's for sure. All right? How do I know? I'm not saying against non-Jews, in general. Right? Because the Torah says, there's an obligation in the book of Leviticus that says, rebuke your people. So what does that mean? It means I don't have an obligation to rebuke non-Jews. I've gotten this question a lot. We have an obligation. They're going to claim, and it's not this question, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway, that some people are going to claim that's our job. We are a light unto nations. True? So who says I have to proselytize non-Jews to keep their own mitzvahs? Nobody. Just because we're the chosen nation, right? Doesn't the Medrash say, in the end of days, so a non-Jew is going to grab the census of a Jew and say, I want to learn Torah. Okay, so you got to teach him. Who says I have to go out there and teach? I have to go looking for non-Jews to teach, right? The Noahide law. Some of my Rebbe, others hold certainly not a mitzvah at all. If they come to you, different issue. But for me to go to them, what does it have to do with we're a light unto nations? But what's the question? The question is, but how is a non-Jew supposed to learn? You're right. You're only supposed to learn from Jews. I agree. So how are they supposed to find out? They'll find out. A lot of ways to find out, right? The Gemara says you want to go in the right direction, God will help you. You want to go in the wrong direction, God will not stop you, right? So should Noahites proselytize secular Jews? No. Not at all. No mitzvah. They shouldn't do it. Jews should do it. Jews have an obligation. Certainly non-Jews not. Not only that, non-Jews shouldn't even be proselytizing. Other non-Jews keep the Noahide law. No mitzvah whatsoever. And so what? Noahides dependent on Jews keeping Torah mitzvahs. Right. Plenty of Jews keeping Torah mitzvahs. 100%. There are a lot of Jews keeping Torah mitzvahs. Right. There are also plenty, there are 13 million Jews, not keeping very much of anything. Also true. Also true. So who's got the mitzvah to go out and bring back Jews to the fold? Jews do. Because Jews, we're all intertwined, the Gemara says. Kol Yisrael Ravim says, we're all intertwined. God forbid a Jew does something wrong. Secular, religious, all Jews get blamed. I never heard of an Italian done something in Brooklyn. And everyone says, burn down Italy, no more cannolis. Never happened. Why? Because non-Jews are not responsible one for another. Jews are. Could also be, there's a mitzvah, what we call Hashavas Aveda. Returning a lost object. What are you returning to that secular Jew? His soul. You're returning his soul back to him, giving him a connection to Judaism. So that applies to a Jew on a Jew. Certainly doesn't apply on a non-Jew on a Jew, certainly not a Jew on a non-Jew. Right? In other words, I know mitzvah whatsoever. To go out to a non-Jew, try to convince them to keep the Noahide laws. If they find me, they're interested in learning, very good. If they don't want to learn, I'm not running after them. Not my choice. Not my job. Not part of my job description here. But how are they going to know? They'll find out if they want. All right, someone said you got all these people in India worshiping cows. Why is that my problem? Got plenty of people of India listening to these classes. They found out the truth. They know the truth. Other people don't want the truth. Their choice. I have to go try and convince all the Hindus, not to be idolatrous. Who says? We don't believe in proselytization. Not for Jews, not for non-Jews. Right? We believe in bringing non-Jews back. That's not proselytization. Right? We're not, we're trying to bring them back to their heritage. We're not trying to convince non-Jews not to be idolaters. Not our job. It's not a non-Jew's job either. If a non-Jew looks into it, their choice, good. If they don't look into it, well, we're going to send all the non-Jews to educate them. Right? All the Noahites. Who says? Right? We're busy training Noahites in order to teach others, okay? We're not putting up signs all over the place in front of churches trying to convince them not to be idolaters. It's not a non-Jew's job. It's not a Jew's job. Right? Not at all. You're right. There are a lot of secular Jews. A lot of secular Jews. 100%. Right? It's the duty of the Jews to try and bring them back. Certainly not non-Jews. Not only that, that would be the biggest spit in the face. I mentioned this before. The Dalai Lama, had students, that were Jewish. And he said, I have nothing to offer you. You should go back to Israel. And there are a number of Jews that became religious through the Dalai Lama. They became Orthodox Jews through the Dalai Lama. Now that boggles the mind. So he's got, some sort of merit. I don't know, whatever it is. But, I can't help but think what an absolute embarrassment that is to that Jew, that you have to have, the cream of the crop, the head of Buddhism, to tell you to go learn Torah. Right? I was just learning, when I go up north, now I just started learning about the severity of going to a non-Jewish court. So one of the things brought down, that I mentioned was that imagine a non-Jewish court says, you have two Jews, you have Reuben and Shimon. They go to secular court when they're not allowed to. So imagine a non-Jewish judge, they come in front of and says, hey, don't you have your own laws? What are you doing by us? And then he makes an injunction and forces them. He said, we're not going to let any court hear your case. You have to go back to Beis Din. You have to go to the rabbinical court to let them hear the case. Right? So you might think, so no, not a bad thing. Not a bad thing over here. They're going to get, proper judgment. They're going to go to Beis Din. Awesome. They're going to go to Beis Din. Unbelievable. Yeah, but there's another side to it. You're being forced by non-Jews to keep your own laws. Shouldn't you keep your own laws without non-Jews, sticking their nose in and say, hey, doesn't the God of Israel say you have to keep this and do that? And even if they convince you, and even if you went to Beis Din, you went to the rabbinical court, isn't that still spitting in God's face? Because there are two opinions, imagine. Reuben and Shimon go to secular court when they're not allowed to. Reuben sees he's going to lose in secular court. Or let's say he has remorse and he wants to now go to Beis Din. He now wants to go to rabbinical court. There are two opinions whether Beis Din should accept them or not. One opinion is, since every time they're in secular court, they transgress the Torah prohibition every second, so the Beis Din should hear the case. Beis Din should take the case. Another opinion is, no. What you did is you accomplished making a desecration of God's name. By making a desecration of God's name, now you're coming to us. No matter you have remorse, you have regret, even if it's not for the sake of heaven. They're coming back. Why? They're coming back because they see they're going to lose in secular court. So now the basic can say, you're coming to us? You're coming back now with this crummy remorse? We're not going to listen to you. We're going to fine you as well because of this desecration of God's name. You're going to say, but they're coming anyway. Now they don't transgress Torah prohibition of every second going to secular court. True. And maybe the rabbinical court is going to transgress and putting a stumbling block in front of them. True. But the other opinion is it's not a stumbling block. They did it to themselves. Whether they thought, I don't know, this person wouldn't come to base it, whatever they thought, doesn't matter. Right? But as the code of Jewish law says, you got secular court, you have a case where secular court forced them to go to base it. So Coffman's comment was, what an absolute disgrace. You got secular court telling you what you're obligated to do? You don't think that's a disgrace? Got non-Jews telling me what my obligation is in Torah? That's a pretty big disgrace. That's a huge disgrace. So if anyone's going to tell us what to do, it should be Jews, not non-Jews. Now you say, but even if a non-Jew did it and the person became religious and this and that, again, it could be the Dalai Lama somewhere has some sort of merit for these two, for these number of souls that became religious. True. Very true. But it's, I wouldn't say it's something to be so proud of. Because at the end of the day, how did it happen? It happened through the Dalai Lama. It didn't happen through another Jew. It happened through one of the head honchos or the head honcho of Buddhism. So a person can say, doesn't matter. Look what happened. It happened through him, okay? He was the messenger. Good. We don't want to give him any more merit. We don't give him any merit, right? Not for anything for what he does, right? Torah prohibition is idolater, no question, right? But imagine, maybe there is some merit he got for the sake of these Jews to be religious, okay? Maybe somewhere down the line, maybe get something, I don't know. But these Jews, I wouldn't be bragging. I wouldn't be bragging over here and saying, wow, look at this. Dalai Lama told me to go learn Torah in Jerusalem. He told me we had nothing to offer. So he made me so I went to learn Torah, became an Orthodox Jew. Okay, could be. You have to have a certain level of gratitude for the Dalai Lama. Could be. Because he sent them on this path. Okay. I still think it's pretty disgraceful. Imagine a person went to the Pope, became a Christian, a Jew becomes a Christian. The Pope says, what are you coming to us for? It's all sheker. It's all a lie. It's all a total lie. We don't really believe it anyway. Really? We don't have anything to offer. You should learn Torah. Go to yeshiva. You learn from the Pope to go to yeshiva? Popesy tells you to go to yeshiva? And he went to yeshiva and became frum, okay? So he's a messenger, okay? God sent him as a messenger. Good. That's something to brag about? Right? Same thing over here. Secular court forced you to go according to Jewish law. You should have gone to Jewish law anyway. You have no right to go to secular court. You don't understand the severity of the prohibition. What were you thinking? I didn't really believe in it. I didn't really know about it. Person make up 100,000 excuses. But secular court's gonna force you to keep your own laws. You're not embarrassed. You're not embarrassed by such a thing. You should be embarrassed. Should be embarrassed. I'm not saying they're not going to get some sort of credit. Maybe it is that, whatever it is. Maybe there's a certain level of gratitude the person should have, right? But it's not said in a nice way. We're not looking to give merit secular court over here. Or popesy or, what's his face, the Dalai Lama. Not looking to give them any merit whatsoever. Right? But you became religious through them? That's a little bit of a slight on the person. You need the Dalai Lama to wake you up. You need the Dalai Lama to tell you to go learn Torah. You need popes to tell you to go learn Torah. But they're a messenger. Okay, right? Without getting into everything else and everything around it. They're the ones telling you to go learn Torah. Pretty big disgrace, I would think. I don't think the redeeming factor over here is, the person became religious and he was the messenger. Okay. But see, the way the commentaries deal with this, and the fact that secular court forces a person to go to rabbinical court, that is not a praise. And not bragging rights over here. Not at all. Just the opposite. So we need to deal with our own. Jews certainly have to bring back, our fellow Jews as much as we can. Non-Jews, let them deal with their own thing. Proselytizing non-Jews to non-Jews? No. Non-Jews to Jews? No. Jews to non-Jews? No. One of the longest responses my Rebbe's written. He basically says there's no mitzvah whatsoever. None. At all. For a Jew to bring a non-Jew closer to his mitzvahs. If the non-Jew comes to us, different issue. That's a different issue. But I'm looking to proselytize. Judaism is not about proselytization. Jews have to keep Torah mitzvahs. If someone's not, we have to do our best. Give rebuke, try and draw them closer, whatever it takes. But that's not for non-Jews. Someone asked, I do a video on the 3 daily prayers for the Jew in training. I could do that. I'll make a note of it. I think that would be important to do. Someone asked, hunting permitted for Noahites. Jews definitely forbidden. Hunting for sport. For non-Jews, there's a response to done. It's considered cruel. Right? It's cruelty to animals. The question is, non-Jews, are they obligated in cruelty to animals? So the difference, I'll just throw this out there. The difference of opinion, I made this video on Tanakh, where whole question about neutering animals. Are you allowed to neuter an animal? So a Jew is not allowed to neuter an animal. Right? Not allowed to. Now, the whole question by a non-Jew. Is a non-Jew allowed to? So that's the difference of opinion. I think we come out that non-Jews allowed to. Question is, if a Jew had an animal and he wanted to neuter it, can he give it to a non-Jew to do? Right? So that's the whole question. Right? Same way, if I remember, I think it's definitely permissible. Definitely permissible to do. I think for a Jew can't do it himself. A Jew cannot, have another Jew do it. Is hunting permitted for a non-Jew? If there's a question whether causing pain to animals when it's forbidden, right, making animals suffer, whether it's a Torah prohibition or rabbinic prohibition, right? Everyone agrees it's forbidden for Jews, right? Hunting for Jews is going in the ways of non-Jews, and it's an act of cruelty. Right, it's called b'chukosai lo selechu. Not allowed to go in the ways of non-Jews. And at the same time, non-Jews are allowed to go in the ways of non-Jews, as long as it doesn't lead to one of the Noahide laws. So for non-Jews, should be okay. Right, hunting should be okay. Now the question would be, is causing pain to animals when it's forbidden? Does that apply to non-Jews or not? Definitely applies to Jews, right? Does what we call tzar ba'chaim, causing pain to animals when it's forbidden? Is that forbidden? I don't think it is, right? So hunting in this case, hunting should be okay. Could be other things might be forbidden, right? Hunting is going in the ways of non-Jews. It is, scaring the animal or whatever. It is an issue. an act of cruelty. Definitely an act of cruelty, but I think by non-Jews it's all right. I don't think it's forbidden. All right. Definitely for Jews it's forbidden. Right. But the famous response by the Noda B'Yehuda, that he says that it's an act of cruelty and Jews shouldn't do it, and you're learning bad things from non-Jews. Okay, you're learning bad character traits from non-Jews doesn't necessarily mean it's forbidden for non-Jews. All right, I could hear, again, as a moral imperative, it's not a good thing to do. It is cruel, no question. But, does a non-Jew have to comply with it? No. Right? It could be, it's okay for them. It's not one of the no-hide laws. The only thing is, one of the no-hide laws is they can't eat a limb from a live animal. It's not necessarily because it's cruelty. I think that's a different issue. But it doesn't come underneath that. So I would say, yeah, as a moral imperative, I would say it's forbidden, but not anything else. If a non-Jew wanted to do it, they could. They want to be cruel to animals. Again, it's not good. It's not good for character traits in general, but, to say that it'll be forbidden because of the no-hide laws wouldn't go that far. Someone asked, have I ever seen a no-hide become an Israeli citizen? It's a good question. Have I seen a no-hide become a Israeli citizen? Well, there is a problem. There is a problem granting citizenship to non-Jews here in Israel, right? Arabs don't have, full status as residents here. I mean, I think, they can vote. I think they have the right to vote, but I think as status of, actually, properly owning things, even though things, they do own things, whatever. Do they, are they granted full citizenship? So again, if they were granted full citizenship, the demographics would be thrown off. And Israel's supposed to be a Jewish state, right? So if Israel's supposed to be a Jewish state, you can't have more non-Jews than Jews here, right? So they're not granted full status. They wouldn't be granted full status as citizens. Could that change? Could change. In theory, by no-hides, I can tell you by Arabs how it works. And other people, they can get temporary residency. I don't think you can get full residency here, even as a no-hide. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, no question. I'm going to sign out. I just every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Coffman or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimcoffman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com.